Hello traders, this is Rich from Tradesight. This is the market preview for Wednesday, July 2nd, 2014. We had a strong day today by almost all metrics. The S&P was up 13 handles. The Nasdaq was the star of the show with almost twice the relative performance, plus 44 and a quarter. And the Dow was up 136. Advanced declines were solid on both sides, but we did have a trend reading of 1.05. Which is actually going to elevate the 10-day trend. So the 10-day trend is not in an overbought condition right now. All right, first up, let's take a look at the ES futures. The ES futures did break the range that they had been trapped in. Did push to the upside. We settled just a little bit below the plus 2 ace level, so we're not going to get the frame shift, but we're up against key resistance now. Not only are we up against key resistance on the Gann box, but we are now also 12 bars up in the seeker exhaustion run. So as early as tomorrow we could get the exhaustion warning in place and then perhaps start to see a change in trend to the downside. Key support is going to be the plus 1 ace level. We do have the gap open from the day before, so if we get under today's range and get into that gap, the plus 1 ace level is going to be key support. To the top side, we've got to settle above the plus 2 ace level, and then if we can do that, 1984 could come into play after the frame shift. Moving on to the NQ side, the NQ side had more expansion to the upside, but like the ES futures, we are 12 days up. We did frame shift in the Nasdaq futures, so you can see we're only at 8 ace right now, and there's a fair amount of extension to the upside here, especially if we get that 13 a little bit higher here. We could have a pretty good signal and reversal to the downside. So key resistance is going to be today's high, and then the 6 ace level at 39.06. Support's going to be at the day's low because we've got the gap open and then the gap fill, which will come in at about 38.39. Want to take a look at the bonds here, talk about these. We had a very weak day today, huge gap to the downside, and actually closed below the open, settling right around the 50 period moving average. So that's going to be very important support here. If we lose that, that opens the door to the 3 ace level. The other thing to keep in mind here is we do have a potential lower high. Here's the highest high. Here's the potential lower high. So if we undercut these lows on a closing basis, that will qualify this lower high here. Oil futures were fairly sloppy on the day. We're in a multi-day downtrend now. Still just kind of riding the 10 EMA to the downside. Support's going to be at 104.68 at the 7 ace level. Then much more important support where the 6 ace level and the 50 period moving average line up. Resistance to the upside is going to be at 8 ace here at 106 and a quarter. Gold futures, not a bad day all things considered, but we're now 8 days up in the startup count. We did push higher here out of this range, but actually didn't even settle much higher than the absolute highs here. So starting to get a little bit late here in this count. Might need a little bit of another pause here before we continue this assault to the upside. If we do roll to the downside, support's going to be in the area of this 4 ace level at 13.1250. I want to take a moment and take a look at the weekly cumulative advanced decline figures. We've been in a very positive condition here for the New York Stock Exchange side on the top here. The Nasdaq side did have this interruption, but didn't cause the New York side to roll down. However, the Nasdaq side is coming on with a vengeance right now, and starting to come into an area where it could be attacking the previous high. We had a net plus 1,400 issues today, which was really an excellent showing. I'm sure the rest of the week isn't going to be quite as glamorous, but we could see some further improvement. And if not, this could be an area of failure. So definitely want to keep an eye on this as we roll into next week. Here's a look at the ratio chart of the NDX divided by the S&P. So we're looking for a rising condition here when there's NDX strength, and that's certainly what's happening here. NDX has been showing relative strength versus the S&P, which is always a good sign for the market to keep advancing. So for now, this is definitely positive. Starting to get a little bit steep here with this angle of ascent here, so I would think that we're going to start to see some fatigue here in the Nasdaq side. So definitely be prepared for that. Here's a look at the multi-sector daily chart. Gold futures and the XAU were kind of weak today. Pretty decent performance in the BKX. We're approaching a triple top here. Here's 1, 2, and 3. But we have been setting up higher lows, so we're actually forming a wedge here, so be careful there. Definitely the big performer today was the transports, very, very strong. The oil services, the XAU didn't do too much. Here's the updated look at the 10-day trend. You can see we're actually still climbing. We're actually a little bit closer to oversold than overbought by a decent measure. So right now, according to this metric, we're nowhere near overbought in the market. So we could see some more gravitational pull to the upside rather than the downside and follow through. Here's a look at the put-call ratio. Put-call ratio is still well below the overbought threshold of 0.5 or so. We did get down close to it earlier around June 19th, but haven't really been able to get to that terminally overbought reading, so we've got a little bit more room here before we get that reading, but we definitely have to watch this. So any close around 0.5 would definitely mark a potential high water mark for the market. Here's a look at the individual sectors. Let's rank them from best to worst on the day. Top Gun was the airline index. BTK was also very, very strong, it up more than 2%. Computer hardware was strong, and the semiconductors also came on fairly strong. Bottom of the list was the XAU, followed by the utilities. Oil services was also fairly weak relative to the market, which is really just running in place. We talked about the transports were reasonably strong, up 0.75%. So, net not a bad showing from the market. Here's the airline index, the XAL, starting to curl back up towards that 8/8 level. Note that we're 10 bars up now in the seeker exhaustion run, so we could get a exhaustion warning probably early next week. So definitely be on guard for that. That would also be a retest of the high. Moving on to the BTK. The BTK did settle above that 4/8 level, and it's got quite a bit of room before it runs into any problem with the exhaustion run count. Previous high water mark will obviously be a technical feature if we do get up high enough to run into that. Semiconductors, SOX, settled above the plus 1/8 level, so getting a little bit deeper here into the overbought territory of the GAN box. Next resistance is going to be about 656 or so. Key support is going to be at 8/8 at 625. Banking index is getting close to that little triple top area we talked about. Here's 1, 2, and 3. It's just a small formation, but just wanted to note that we're 11 bars up now in the exhaustion run, and we're having some trouble here with this 8/8 level. If we do release out of this 8/8 level, then we have potential to get up to this plus 2/8 level and attack the previous highs in this index. Oil services today got up to the 8/8 level, but were rejected. 312.50 is going to be key area there. There is room in the bar count, though. That's the one thing it's got going for it. So if we do release above and get into the overbought territory, we've got some room here before we feel the weight of that signal. All right, folks. As always, thanks for listening. This has been Rich for Tradesight.